Thank you, James. Great applause for James Humber. One of, if not the funniest actors you'll ever see on stage. How many of you would really like to be able to understand what motivates your students, how to help your students motivate themselves to learn English, to be able to speak English and take it into the world as a way of improving their own lives? Great. And how many of you would like to be able to do that with a more intelligent effort and less stress? Okay. All right. And how many of you would like to learn some of the keys and top tips for that in the next 60 minutes? Okay, all right. Well, welcome to the right place. It is not Alcoholics Anonymous. It is, although I'm sure, no, sorry. Okay, I'm Terry McLean. Thank you, firstly, to Alberto, Jaspar, Fatima, and everyone at APPI for inviting me back here today after a long time away. It's actually 20 years ago today in Porto that we did the first ever APPI show as members of ETC with James. And it was an experience that we'll never forget, being able to perform for Portuguese teachers. And after that, Portugal became our #1 country in terms of touring. So and I come back here every year, work a lot in Portugal in business, and I'm just so happy to be able to come back here today. Thank you for coming. It was a choice. I don't know if you knew. It was a choice. You chose to come here. And I want to give you some congratulations as well, something else, because here I am in front of experienced, intelligent, talented, creative, charismatic, generous, giving people who have all chosen teaching as a profession. Many years' experience, lots of successes, I'm sure, and lots of learnings too. And even though you are those people, probably you've got families, great lives, successful lives, live in a fantastic country, you're wonderful people. Despite all that, you still say, it's 6:30 in the afternoon, I'm going to go and learn something new. And that, I just take my hat off to that attitude. And I think you could give yourselves a round of applause. There you go. Yeah, not James, no. Sorry. So what will you take away from this session? Very briefly, we'll take away from this session probably 2 or 3 things that you might be able to apply on Monday. Yeah, Monday, tomorrow, yeah, when you go back to work with your students. You understand a bit more about how motivation works, what emotion is and what learning is, and how those 2 things can go together, and the role of emotion in helping people want to learn, because that's the key. I mean, the hard thing isn't giving information. The hard thing isn't talking about grammar, giving content, although it's sometimes hard to believe to get it across, but it's not the hard thing. The hard thing is making people want to learn. I think we agree, yeah? If I say something that you agree with or that hits you in the head, you can let me know by saying how, okay? Should we just try? How? That was pathetic. Everybody, how? Okay, thank you. Right, so if you do that, you'll take away those things to be able to help you. You may take away a little bit more about knowledge about how you yourself motivate yourself and what's the role of emotion in your learning process. And also, I'm going to give you a couple of things to take away that you can use. One of them is a motivational interview, and one of them is a very simple coaching process that you can use with your students, with your colleagues, with yourself, in order to help people create the best version of themselves in a learning process. Okay, does that sound like a useful 60 minutes to you? Yes? I saw more enthusiasm at my grandmother's funeral in January in Iceland. Does that sound useful to you? Yes. Fantastic. Well done. Now, you can put your hand on the shoulder of the person next to you and say, Terry's a bit crazy, but it's going to be a good hour. All right. Okay. All right. So, just who am I? What gives me the kind of right to be here and let you know this? Very quickly, this is sort of who I am. So, speaker, coach, trainer, actor, musician. I've had a bit of a life. Linguist, sports lover, father, son, brother, life partner, permanent outsider. I've had to become Spanish because of Brexit, just so you know. And I'm English, but it's not my fault. Really, I formed Clever Pants with James on the back of ETC after that. And I want to tell you a story about really what I think, why I'm here in lots of ways. Because I think 11 years ago now, here's what happened. I did how I made the change from theatre to coaching and training. We were working with Clever Pants and things weren't going so well. They were going well in terms of a number of shows, but things weren't going well between James and myself because I had other interests. I was doing other things. And here's the thing. By the time 2007 came around, I'd done probably about 3,000 professional theatre performances in English in Spain, in France, in Portugal, in Belgium, and in Italy as well. And I was bored. In fact, when I went out in the last 100 shows, when I was going out to perform, I didn't feel nervous at all. There was no emotion in what I was doing. And so my performance dropped. My performance, not so much on stage, because I was very used to that, but in terms of administration, commitment, interest, I wasn't there. And James wrote me a letter and said, I think we need to review everything Clever and Pants. And I knew he was right at that moment. And the role of emotion in everything we do is something that's going to go through the whole of this talk. And I understood then that what was missing wasn't my ability, it wasn't my knowledge, it wasn't my experience. What was missing was the desire, the want to do it. And I then thought back to the fact that, and it's true, I speak, like a lot of people who do what we do in English in Europe, I speak 7 languages. Most of them seem to be a version of Spanish. And I thought about when I was a kid and why did I want to learn languages? When I was at school, I learned Latin and I learned French. I was okay in French in the first year. I was okay. About 12 years old, I was getting 65, 70% in my exams. That was okay. But my father had a change of jobs. He decided from being a docker to become an insurance inspector. So he had a massive increase in salary. So for that summer holiday, we didn't go to Margate or Broadstairs or any of those lovely English Riviera places. My father decided with a car, with an old Escort, he decided to drive us to Saint-Tropez. So let's have some reaction to that. He decided to drive us to Saint-Tropez. No. Oh. You see, so get it right, come on. I went to Saint-Tropez and it was in the car all the way when we go to a camping site, but it was fantastic. And the thing I found out in Saint-Tropez, I discovered one thing that became a huge motivation for me to learn language. French girls. Naked French girls. Now when you're 12, that's a motivation. And I went back and I became the best at French anyone could possibly be. So when I left Clever Pants, I thought about that moment. I thought, what's missing is the emotion. So the naked girls. Yeah, I didn't have enough naked girls in my life. So that was Achilles' point. So I'll just shout to anyone, no, sorry. Okay, so here's the thing. What we're going to do now is talk about emotion. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years is the different positions, and this is mainly for adults, this part, or, no, there's no naked girls. Mainly for adults or older teenagers, okay? So I've been looking over the years, and this comes from theatre, speaking in public, music when I was a musician as well. There are basically 4 positions that a learner or a listener in a room will have when they come to this place. Okay? And you may have one of these 4 right now. Every one of them is legitimate. Okay? I'm going to go through them. The first one is kind of a bit skeptic, yeah? Skeptic. A bit like, this English guy, he's going to have to be really good to convince me, yeah? I've been a teacher in Portuguese schools in Brandão, yeah? In Matosinhos, yeah? In Gaia. What does he know about Portuguese kids in English? He knows nothing about, Okay? And if you have that attitude, that's fine. I love that people. I love those people. I really do. Because it's a legitimate attitude. I'm like that. When I go and get trained, every year I go train myself, and I see a trainer on stage, someone who does my job, and they do it, and I'm like, yeah, what are you doing? In fact, with me is hoping he's not as good as me, So I understand that role. That's fine. The second one is in Spain this works really well, but this is in Spanish. It's a Chinese attitude, and the Spanish call it ni fu ni fa. Yeah. Ni fu ni fa. It's like somebody made me come. I don't know why. I'm going to pretend to listen. I'm going to be a good listener and go, yeah, yeah. I put on the automatic responder, the answer machine, yeah, yeah. Look at my mobile phone, yeah. And usually if there's some food, it's a good job there's catering, otherwise I'm not coming. That's okay, I understand that. And that's a legitimate position. Just a little thing here, though. The first 2, these positions are barriers to learning. Because children are not here. Okay? Little children, yeah? So, we used to get, when we're doing theatre, we get teenagers like that, And I love teenagers, doing theatre for teenagers, because they're honest. They will tell you if the play is shit. Ha, ha, ha. It's great. They're honest about their position, you see. Most adults, we've become very bourgeois. We watch a piece of theatre, we don't like it, we applaud politely, we look at the neighbour, see if they're applauding, and then we go home and say, that was rubbish. So I like adolescents. So I'm happy with these positions. The third one's a very English position, okay? Third one's very English. It's the word which we all know is interesting. Now, I know the Portuguese are very, very good at English, very high level of English. But I don't know if you know, if an English person ever says to you, that's interesting, it is not interesting. Okay? It's the opposite of interesting. It means my dinner is more interesting than what you are saying. In fact, my dinner yesterday is more interesting than what you're saying. Right? It's intellectual belief, because the word interesting is always followed by another word. What's that word? Interesting? But. I do buts around here. But, interesting but. And but is the word that, if you've done anything about NLP, you know what the word but does. It's the universal eraser. Okay. So, 3 positions. Again, legitimate. That's okay. You need this, but it's not enough. It's intellectual belief. So, what we're going to do is look at number 4, which is 100%. 100% up for it. Okay? 100% up. This is the only attitude that counts. Now, my job today, in this, what's left of this talk, is to help you be here. Okay. My life was very much changed. I very much changed my attitude towards learning and emotion when I met someone that you might have heard of in Portugal in 2011, a very important day for me. April the 11th, 2011, I met a man called José Mourinho. You know him? I met him in a hotel in Madrid. He was with the Real Madrid football team at the time, and he was in the bar. Now, I've lost my reputation more times than I need to count, so I don't mind asking people. So I went up to him and I said, "Hello, Jose." And he said, "Who the fuck are you?" Yeah? Sorry, excuse my French. And so, you know, he's like, I said, "I'm Terry. So one question for you. I don't want to waste any more of your time. One question. How do you motivate people, Jose?" And he said, "You can't. It's impossible." That was interesting. Very interesting. It wasn't bad. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "No, you can't. It's not your job to motivate other people. It's your job to create a context where the person wants to motivate themselves. And you understand what are the buttons that they can push." And that changed my life. That changed my way of thinking. That changed my way of thinking about learning and about education. So that's where we're going to go today a little bit. 100% up for it is where we need to be. And that means despite Terry. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to learn. It's the worst speaker in the world. I don't care. I'm going to learn. That's for me. Give it to me. It's the attitude my little daughter, who's 8, Iona, has. Sorry, I get a bit emotional when I talk about her. And she says to me, she's English, Catalan, Spanish, Chinese, okay? There you go. And when she wants something, she says, "Es que daddy, es que lo quiero." Okay, and you know, and she gets it. Es que lo quiero. So let's try doing that all together. 1, 2, 3. Es que lo quiero. You've got to do it with your hands as well, the body as well. So 1, 2, 3. Es que lo quiero. That's what it is. Okay, good. All right, so in order to be here, we need to change our emotional state. And emotional state comes through using the body, okay? How many of you went to school as students, as children and teenagers? You went to school, yeah? Right, okay. So you have suffered, like me, you have suffered educastration. You had educastration, yeah? Okay, so when we use the body, we come away from that. We change it. So what you're going to do right now is change the way we are, and you're going to get an impact and a feeling, understand through experience what having a different emotional state does to your frontal lobe and the dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin it puts in here. Okay, right now, that's what you're going to have. It's going to happen to you. So I'd like you to turn to when I say go, turn to the person next to you, look them in the eye. Shake their hand and say, "Enjoy the next 45 minutes of your life." Off you go. Go. Okay, stand up and go and find somebody else. Do the same thing. Stand up and find somebody else. Do the same thing. Okay, keep standing up or sitting down, what you're doing, don't stop you all. Now, find the nearest person to you, put your hand on their shoulder, look them up and down respectfully, and say, "Today you look fantastic. You look fantastic. You look good." That's great. Everybody, arms in the air. Arms in the air, please. Arms in the air. Arms in the air. Nearest person to you, big hug, "I love you." That's right. Okay. Very good. Sit down, please. Thank you. Fantastic. Just a hand up. No, hand up, hand up. Okay, here's a contract, okay? Thank you. Here's a contract for now. Feel better? Good, yeah? You see? So, there are lots of us, and this works for you as well. there are lots of us. There are going to be things that you're going to do together in pairs and groups in this 45 minutes. So, and I don't want to shout. So when the exercise is finished, I'll put my hand up and keep my mouth shut. When you see me, do the same. And in 5 seconds, we've got silence in the room. Okay? It's called establishing an emotional contract with the audience. Okay. Yeah? Good? Let's try it. Thank you very much. All right, that's it. Bye. Now, okay, right, so, okay. Right, so here's the thing. Literally, when we do things with, well, it's like asking Portuguese people to hug themselves. You know, it was nice because it's very easy for you. If I do that in Britain, it's like, oh my God, I didn't bring any cleansing gel. You know, I have to touch another Homo sapiens. And if they do it, they do it like this, you know. Making sure the paradigms don't touch. It's great, isn't it? And, you know, I don't know how the British did 60 million population. Osmosis, probably, and alcohol. So, it's funny, you do it in America, they call their lawyer. Can I do this? Is this legal? So, here we go. I'll get some content in a minute. All right. Oops. Yeah, so just a couple of things. I'm going to say things and to some more interactive stuff. So, the two things I thought we could need to define in this talk. One was what is learning, and the other thing is what is emotion. Okay? So learning, you've already seen it. What is learning? And learning officially, there are many definitions, but one of them is the increasing the capacity to produce positive results. So I don't know if you can think about things that you've tried to learn in the past where somebody made you learn it, or things that you didn't learn because people tried to make you learn it, or things that you learned by yourself. And if we think about that, we come to emotion. What is emotion? Emotion has got many definitions in the dictionary. I'm a linguist. I'm obsessed almost with the power of words. I believe fundamentally that our reality is created by the stories we tell ourselves, the myths, you know. Our nationality is a myth. Our football club is a myth, of course, except Benfica, or Sporting, or Porto, or Boa Vista. Well, Boa Vista, anyway. So no, but everything is a myth. So we talk to ourselves. So here's the thing. Emotion for me is about emotion, which makes you move. It's not about making students cry. It's not about making us cry. It's about understanding what is it that makes you make decisions. Everyone has different buttons and push, but what is that thing that makes you move? And I do fundamentally believe as well that of our conversations then will be able to improve, make the world a better place, which is what you want to do. So when we look at words and language, we think about the power of language and how that can help with us with emotion and how we speak to ourselves. Friedrich Nietzsche said, human beings are the only animals that only tell themselves stories, they believe them. And today we're going to look at some of the things that can help you for yourself and your students about what's the story you tell yourself, what's the story they tell themselves, and how to get that story out. I've got to work with the unemployed in charity work for unemployed people, where we think about how to get their best version to the job center or the interview. And a lot of that is to do with how you tell yourself the story, and we're going to look at some of those things today. Okay. So, how many of you have seen this before? Okay, so this is The Iceberg from Robert Dilts, and We know about this. And we know that on the surface is just our results. But we know that if the results are not ones that we want and want to change them, we can't operate on the same level to change them. We need to go underneath and look at maybe the skills that people don't think they have. I never forget a play, and I believe theatre is a wonderful tool for this. And I know that here in this room, I'm speaking to people who are convinced of the role of theatre in learning English. I'll never forget. Now, James and I were very lucky to perform in Portugal because the level of English in Portugal is very high. And the Portuguese always go, oh, no, it isn't. But it is. If you compare it to your neighbour, you know, it's very high. And we were performing in Mallorca, in Spain, in a beautiful theatre, in really auditorium, a professional theatre, beautiful theatre. And we played School Days, which is one of our plays that we've written. And there was a skinhead boy in the second row. And he was only in the second row because the teachers were punishing him and they had to sit next to the teacher because he was a bad student. Hated English. But I saw he was following the play. It's a love story. So when the story came to the final kiss, and, you know, the Gloria, the female character, kissed me on the cheek, or I kissed her on the cheek, you know, the audience are never happy with that. They wanted full tonsil exploration. You know, the kids are like, no, yeah, con la lengua, eh. But they're motivated, you know? They're getting a this kid, he shouted out, with the language. Now, I was like, I tell you, I've still got goosebumps thinking about that moment. And I was like, oh, I love you. Because that was a skinhead kid, like, yeah? Rejected by the whole of society, rejected by, you know, the teacher. And he's done that. And when he said it, the teacher slapped him round the head. What the fuck? What are you doing? And afterwards, she came up, she grabbed him by the ear and said, say sorry to the... I said, what are you doing? I gave him a hug. Fantastic. That's the best line we've ever had. And that line is going to be in the play from now on. Well done. So you see. So I've lost my... I don't know what I'm talking about now. Okay. So, okay. Here's the thing. I just want to... we're going to get some... I'm going to ask you to do something in a minute. I just want to tell you a story about my life, which explains how this works. Because what we need to be doing as teachers and coaches and educators and people involved in helping people grow, which is what you do, we kind of need to be, the focus, the transactional result we want is up the top, yeah? We want them to improve their English and maybe, you know, their behavior, their role in society. But to do that, we need to understand stuff down here. We need to be touching them here. How many of you can remember an inspirational teacher at your school? Wouldn't it be great if in 20 years' time there were some kids here thinking about you with that? And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So I just want to tell you a quick story. Is that okay? Can I tell you a quick story about how I understood this very intuitively in my own life, about how it changes results? So I want to take you back to myself as a kid. My father was a wonderful man in lots of ways, and a very conflicted man in lots of other ways. And he had a very negative idea of work. In fact, he told me constantly that work was a 4-letter word. And we know that in English, most of the bad words are 4 letters, and it was another one. And I should always try to work as little as possible for as much money as possible. Someone who never had a phone in his house because he did not want the bosses to know where he was. Okay? At the same time, he was quite conflicting in the sense that he would make, you know, if I got 95% in French, he would say to me, why didn't you get 99? 400, you know. So there was this kind of conflict going on, but never mind. So I grew up with the idea of avoiding work. I grew up with a very, very strong belief about my identity, right down there, that I was lazy, that I was a lazy person. And in fact, my purpose in life, of course I didn't know this, but my purpose in life was to avoid work. I went to university to avoid work. You know, 4 years studying French and social studies or something, you know. 1 year in France, wow, south of France, you know, fantastic. I came out of university and I thought, oh, I don't like this work stuff, I'll go and do a master's. But this was, I'm getting to 25 now and getting a bit older. And I needed some money because my parents had said, that's it, you can't come back home, basically. It's too late. You know? So I thought, I've got to get a job that is working the least amount of time and least amount of effort for the most amount of money. And I did it. I became a university professor. Well, not professor, I became a university lecturer. Okay. So I worked in Italy and I worked in Italy, and when I was working in Italy, I asked, because you know, I was coming to the end of my contract and I didn't want to work properly, so I want another year. I went to the university and I said, can I have an extension to my contract? They said no. I went home and I said to my Italian girlfriend, I said, Vera, non hanno rinnovato il contratto. You understand, I believe. You're such polyglots, you know. It's nothing like Portuguese Italian, is it? Anyway, and she said to me, I'll say it in Italian, she said to me, Terry, non è la unica cosa che è terminata. Which is a great way to finish a relationship. So there I was, 26, 25, 26, no job. Girlfriend, thank you, yeah, thanks very much, it's all right. Got you. No job, no money, no career, just really, that's it. What am I going to do? So I thought, you know what? I can teach English, I'll just go to South America. Or I'll do something else, I'll just travel the world, you know. So I got a map of the world. Like an old map, proper map, you know. I got a pin, where the pin lands, I go. With a pair of tomatoes, you know. Tomatoes, eggs, aubergines, but cherry tomato. Anyway, so I've lost the track of the talk completely now. So I got the pin. Bang! I closed my eyes. Bang! Moscow. Okay, I'll go to Barcelona. And I was in Barcelona, and you know, I went back to England and did some English teaching in a school in London to get some money. And I had enough money for about 3 months. And I think I had a job kind of planned, started to pay in November, December. But I had no money. And in fact, what happened was I spent my money in a month. So I spent a couple of nights in Barcelona on the street, in Plaza Urquinaona. It was September, it wasn't really, you know, a bad deal, but I was hungry and I needed to eat. So I thought, okay, so I saw people on the Ramblas doing the statue thing. Would you give me money? No. I'm free tonight, I'm here all week, you know. So I said, you know, I can do that. So I went and I walked up and down the Ramblas 2 hours looking for a place to sing. And so I found it eventually in Café Opera, in front of Café Opera, and I sang 2 songs. And I made 1,000 pesetas, about €6. And at that moment, my whole life changed. My whole life changed. In fact, the reason I'm here today is because of that decision. I walked forward and I made 1,000 pesetas, whatever it was, and I saw people smiling, laughing, groups of people watching me. I thought, wow, this is... And I had goosebumps. And I thought, wow, this is really incredible. And what happened next is the most interesting, because after that, then people came and I got into a band, and I didn't stop working. I started to learn every song I could possibly learn. I perfected my guitar. I started to work more. I was within a month, I was in 3 bands and 2 theatre companies. And I was printing cards, Terry McLean, actor, musician, you know. And so my purpose, identity, values, beliefs, skills changed. And my results changed. Everything changed from that one moment of emotion, of finding what I really want to do. So I've got a question for you. And I'm going to ask you to interview each other with this, if you want, or do it by yourself. It's a free exercise, but, you know, share with each other. Maybe you might learn something different. Why did you become a teacher? You've got 3 minutes for this with each other, okay? Thank you very much. Great. See, it works, and you can use it in your classrooms and schools. Just establish the contract first, and tell them why you're doing it, and that it's good for them as well. So it's really going to work. It works brilliantly. I've done it with thousands of people, with groups of 1,000 doctors, including you know doctors with the ego the size of a house. Yeah, I've done it. So it works. So okay, so we haven't got time for everyone to share, of course. But I would like to hear anyone who'd like to say, you know, anyone who wants to share anything, please let me know. I love these moments of silence. I used to have a teacher at school who was my Latin teacher, Mr. Minnock, who was very good at throwing the blackboard duster at people. Yeah. And he would say, if we asked a question, nobody answered, of course. He would say, I have no friends or family, I can wait all day. So, go on. Who wants to share? Yeah, hello. What's your name? Melissa. Melissa. Huh? Ah, Melissa, sorry. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you very much. Tell me.
Sorry. Okay, here we
Thank you,
go
Carla.
again. I decided to be a teacher because I wanted to be better than the worst teacher I ever had and aspired.
Can you see that teacher anywhere in this room?
I don't remember her anymore. And I wanted to be as good as possible as my first teacher, the one I really love.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Melitha.
You're welcome.
Well done. And I'm going to ask you another question. You don't have to answer me, okay? Why? Now, what for? What to give you? I know that's great. That's where it comes from. That's the past. That's like, in Spanish, it would be a por qué. But now I'm going to ask you to think about para qué. What does that give you? What's that in it for? Now, because there's a great, great TED Talk, many of you may have seen it, by Simon Sinek called People Don't Buy What You Do, Buy, and buy means buy into. The idea doesn't just mean buy, okay? People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, what you do it for. Steve Jobs, people at Apple used to be terrified of meeting Steve Jobs in the lift, in the elevator, because they're very fit because they take the stairs, because he would always, if he didn't know the person, he would say, "Who are you and why do you work for me?" And no, it wasn't looking for, because I want to pay my mortgage. He was looking for something like the Apple answer, which is, because I want to change the status quo. Now, it's great that you want to be better than the worst teacher you had, and there must be another reason for that, because it's something you want to give. But you don't need to answer me, it's up to you. Just think about that, okay? And if people couldn't answer, he would say, "You need to leave." And literally, he would sack them. I don't know if that's true. It's an urban myth. People talk about Steve Jobs a lot. But it's very interesting. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. Have a look at that TED Tube if you want to understand about emotion, because the question why is the most important question in that sense. It's a very dangerous question, but very powerful. Okay. Thank you, Melitha. Anyone else? One more? Yes. Hello. What's your name? Carmen. Why weren't you my teacher? Thank you, Carmen. Yeah, that's great. And that's the thing. That's one of the things. First of all, if we want to create, people talk a lot about emotion at the moment. If you go outside the teaching industry and teaching profession, in business, people talk about emotive selling all the time now. Really, we don't know. When we talk about it, we don't know what we're talking about, because it's a much more complex thing than we think about. But really, emotion for me is about what makes you make decisions. And it's also very much about your purpose. If you know why you get up in the morning, it changes the way you go to work. It changes the way you go to school. It changes the way you do anything. Like, Susanna is my partner in the company. We have BU. She's also my life partner. And her son, Pablo, is a teenage boy. He's 17 years old. How many people know 17-year-old teenagers here in the room? Yeah, fair enough. That's good. So you know our pain. No, he's a great guy. He's a great kid. One of the things we noticed about Pablo is that he's really, really good at getting up early in the morning when he's got football, because it's the motivation. So we need to just understand that what we want to create is that atmosphere where the person wants to be there. Okay, and I know you're thinking, how do I do that? And some of you do it already. I know. I'm just going to bring a couple of things that might help you change the way you think about things. Okay, so that was that. Now, if you believe that emotion doesn't have a role in learning, then I'm going to share a couple of things with you today that will show you how emotion does work in learning, even negatively. Because how many of you had a teacher in your life that did the opposite of inspiring you? Okay, so the absence of emotion, or the presence of a negative emotion, is also extremely powerful in the learning process. Why did you become a teacher? Again, very quick, this is the last sharing piece for you. What was your best ever teaching experience? Now, That could be one student who you turned around. It could be the Spanish skinhead boy with the language. It could be anything. It could be your own experience as a student. It could be a success story that you personally had as a teacher. And why am I asking you this? I'm asking you to think about this so that you can access the successful patterns that you've already done, to practice them, to make sure you understand why you succeeded. Okay? So let's think about what the best, one student, one class, one day, your own experience as a student. What was the best experience you ever had? Have a think about that in 3 minutes. And discuss it with a partner. Okay. ¿Mm? No, no está bien, ¿no? Porque estoy gordo. Mi teléfono sí tiene batería, ¿eh? That's great. Thank you very much. I'm not going to ask you to share because we don't have time really, but just think about, ask yourself the question, when something succeeds, we are very good at asking ourselves the question why when something goes wrong. And in fact, from the world of sport, I know this from my own sporting achievements, but also from the trainer of the England rugby team many years ago. He changed the way they gave feedback after a match. When they used to win, they used to get drunk and finish it and woo. And if they lost, they were next day, why did we lose? What went wrong? And he changed it completely and said, when we win, we're going to ask ourselves, no drinking, nothing, why did we win? What were the success patterns? Because if you managed it once, you can do it again. So it's, ask yourself that question, wow, that class went really well. And also remind yourself that you do very successful classes. And ask yourself, why did that work? What did I do well? What can I keep going? What can I maintain? What can I keep using? So please ask yourselves that. And if it doesn't go well, just ask yourself, what did I learn? I have changed my attitude in the past 11 years. I'm very lucky to be a professional coach and trainer, and that has given me that change of mindset, which is, I have a mindset which is, I either win or I learn. I don't lose. That's just the way life is for me now. So it does make a huge difference to the way your focus is on life. So here's the thing. We're going to go to something now which is going to, I think, help you to understand in your classes and you're talking in the conversations with students how you can create that impact. So we know about body language. We know the role of body language in how we talk. This is how we talk. So have you seen this before? How many have seen this before? This is the impact of your body language, voice, and content on the message you're giving, on the person who's receiving your message. So if you'll see, 55% of your impact is your body language. 38% is your voice. 7% is your content. Why bother, yeah? Send the lesson by email. Now, If you think I'm saying, doesn't matter what you say as long as you look good and sound fantastic, welcome to politics. Because the most important of those three is the content. But unfortunately, how many times have you seen a speaker who's got fantastic content but is really, really not impactful or boring? Have you seen that before? Yeah, okay. So what we want to do is create impact and get the message across. We want to use our body language and our voice to get the message across. Now that's one thing, but this also works for listening. This also, how many of you think that you can maybe improve your listening? How many of you think, I'm a fantastic listener, I don't need to improve? Okay, that's great, well done. Come up here. Okay, so what we're going to do is give you a little exercise. You have two choices when you're listening. And one of the things about being a teacher and having those conversations with students is how present am I? How present am I? Am I now and here, or am I nowhere? Now and here. Yeah, now you've got a choice, yeah, because as a very famous philosopher said, the future is a mystery, the past is history, today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. And that philosopher was Kung Fu Panda. Very important. So here we're going to have a little exercise on listening, all right? So I need you to stand up and make a circle, or just stand up in lines, okay? In the lines where you are. As near as you can to the people next to you. Don't leave big gaps, all right? So I need you to put your hands like that, okay? Left hand like that, or right, yeah, so your right hand like that, and your left hand like that, underneath the person. So you should have a finger here, and you should have a hand here, like that. You should be touching someone's hand here, and having a finger underneath your hand there. If you haven't got it, I'm sorry. Okay. That's okay. All right? Something like that. That's good. 2 hours like that, and you've learnt it. All right, so what I'm going to tell you a quick story. I'm going to recap my life story very quickly. And when there's a magic word. When you hear the magic word, you have to grab the person's finger on your left and avoid the person on your right taking your finger. Those on the ends, you know, do what you can. Okay? 2 points for grabbing, 1 point for avoiding. Okay? The magic word is guitar. Let's have a practice. Guitar. Very good. So, good. This is the story of how I learned to play that instrument. Hey. I didn't say guitar. Hey. I didn't know. My brother Mick, he had two. He had an electric one and an acoustic one. Didn't have a Spanish guitar. And he also had lots of girlfriends, so I wanted lots of girlfriends, so I wanted to play the guitar. Hey. So there you go. So I sat opposite him every night and watched him play, until after about a year, I was able to play the whole fretboard. I'm not even saying guitar. All right. So, I haven't finished yet, very quickly. So, long story short, as you know, guitar saved my life. Went to Barcelona, and needed to sing, so get some money. So I went down to Ramblas, started to sing, no guitar. But after a while, some guys came to play, and by the end of the week, we were there with our band. You know, we had the tambourine, we had the voices, and of course, two lovely, old-fashioned Spanish guitars. Hey! Very much. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Now, very quickly, you got 30 seconds. Discuss with your neighbor. What do you learn? What do you learn about your listening from that exercise? Okay. What'd you learn? Listening with a purpose. What was your purpose? Was to win, wasn't it? It wasn't about me, it was about you. What else? What do you learn about your listening? What do you learn? How do you listen? So you focused on one word. Ben, can you remember my story? I come all the way here. I drove here 4.5 hours from Madrid. And I tell you my life story and you're like, you don't. So, okay, that's fine. That way of listening and you anticipated and you you're not really present. You're in the future or the past. That's a typical way of listening. It's how we listen. It's okay. It's called the hunting listening. Focus is what we call it. And it works to a certain extent at the same time because we are objective seekers and we want objectives at the end of the day. At the same time, you're missing lots of information. You're missing lots of stuff in the non-verbal of the person. Because when a person says something, they may not, the words may lie, but the body can't. Does that make sense? In fact, I think it's the same in Portuguese, mentir, yeah, is mente, mentir, yeah? In fact, you could say that we are lying from the moment we're born, nacimiento. I'm born a lie. Yeah, we are, so the words lie, the body can't. And in fact, you can know that whenever, let me just ask you a question then, sorry. How many of you have had the feeling when someone's talking to you and listening to you that you are being judged? And how many of you have judged other people? Okay, we all do it. You know what? The thing is, the other person knows it. The studies have shown that other people know what you're thinking about them unconsciously. They don't know they know it, but they know it. And they pay you back with their behavior. And then you complain and blame them. But it's you. Or it starts with you, yeah? And so one of the things that in education, I was working with a Catalan teacher about 2 years ago, and we worked on something that she had a very difficult time receiving. She was teaching what's tercero de eso, I suppose it's like dos, tres, they're about 14 years old, yeah, the kids. She was getting these kids in as 14 and getting a list from the teacher the year before with the labels that she had given the students. These kids are like this, these kids are like this, these kids are like this. And so she was finding that the class she had, because she had these labels, were like that. So we worked on this and she came to the decision that that list of labels, she was going to rip it up and throw it away. And the next year, in the third year, she had great results. And the second year teacher said, how did you do that? That's impossible. Those kids are stupid. Ah, okay. So we're talking very much about this thing, and really the best present you can give anyone, especially a student, to help them feel validated, recognized, accepted, important, is your full attention. And it's hard to do. It's hard because we have an objective when we listen to people. We want them to do something. So, but if you want your student to really blossom and want to learn and want to be part of you, people ask me this in business all the time. They say, how can I make my team want to work for me? I said, listen to them. Love them, validate them, be there for them. So how many of you have that thing where you're listening to someone but your attention goes elsewhere? It was great, isn't it? And at that moment in time, you're losing information. The best present or gift you can give to your students is your full attention. And if you remember, all of you can think about this, a person in your life who really, really listens to you. If you think about that person just for a second, that time where you felt absolutely listened to, not judged, accepted, validated, important, at home, free to be yourself and express your fears, desires, whatever. that person who listened to you, probably has a very high place in your ranking of people. And probably, if that person needed something from you that you could give them, probably you would give it to them because they gave you the best they could possibly give, which is that full attention. Now, I investigated this, and I had a moment where I was talking to a customer, a doctor, and I stopped listening. I was in the future. And what happened? He said, "Oh, you know, Terry, I've forgotten what I was going to say." And I suddenly had a moment of, aha. I realized that was me. I had caused that by stopping listening. So I investigated it. I went to London. I met a guy who was a charisma coach. A coach of charisma, you know. And we came upon an idea of how can you be more present? Because those moments will happen. You will go other places. And what I do when I'm losing my attention with people, with one person, because what happens often, I'm talking to them, and then an image of something else comes between me and them. It could be Khaleesi, Jon Snow, Tony Soprano, Pablo Escobar, Pinto de Costa, you know. It could, no, it's never Pinto de Costa, don't worry. It could be anyone, but it's there, and it's stopping me listening. So what I do, and this is a practical tip, when I lose attention, I focus on one thing of the person's body language. Maybe the way they have their hands folded, maybe the angle of their head, maybe the angle of the crossing of the legs, maybe the color of their eyes, maybe the way their hair falls, maybe the fact they're nodding their head, maybe the fact they have their pen ready and they've just done this. I'm just there for them. And now, you're going to have to trust me on this because this sounds like magic. But when you do that and you take the judgment away, suddenly everything changes in that relationship. And it starts with you. It starts with you. I'm actually out of time, so I'm not sure. Alberto, what are you doing in terms of closing? You having a close-up afterwards? Yeah? Can I have 5 more minutes? Is that okay? Yeah? Can I have 5 more minutes? Is that okay? There's lots I want to tell you. I want to give you a practical thing you can take away. It's a coaching tool I want to take away. I need to just tell you a story. So I'm going to sit here. Sorry. You all right? Okay. So I just want to share the final thing with you about, because this is really about teenagers in lots of ways, but it's about kids as well, and it's about the role of emotion in what's going on sometimes inside your kids, your students' heads, and what may not be going on. So I need to take you on a story. I need to take you back in time. Okay. So if you can imagine it, we are in England in the 60s on Dymchurch Beach, which is on the southeast coast of England. And it's a September day. It's about September the 4th. And it's a family. You'll see a family on the beach. And you'll see a family sitting on the seawall. Underneath the seawall is the beach. The tide is out. And the beach is kind of here, and there's some stones, cobblestones here. Yeah? It's about this high. It's the same height as that beach, as that wall. And you'll see a man in his probably late 30s cleaning the sand from the toes of his son, who is about 5 years old. The man's a perfectionist. He doesn't want sand in his car. And he's cleaning the toes of his son so that he doesn't have sand. And when he's finished, his son's it's a sunny day. The wind, September wind. Everyone's got rosy cheeks, even though they are English. They don't look like burnt prawns. They've had a lovely day on the beach. You can hear the seagulls. You can smell the seaweed. And the boy is on top of the wall. And his cousins are there, his brothers are there, sisters there, the whole family's there. Big happy family. Lots of laughter. And they've had a great day. The boy is about to go to school for the first time in 3 or 4 days' time. It's a very poor family, quite a poor family. The boy knows that he will have to go to school with shorts which are made from corduroy curtains, green corduroy curtains, and he's very embarrassed about that. But he knows that's what the trousers he's got. So he's standing on the wall, and his father says, "Come on, son, jump. I'll catch you." And the boy trusts his father absolutely. He's his hero. There's no doubt about it. He's his best friend and his hero. And the boy wants to jump, and then something stops him. He takes a step back. And the father says, "What's the matter, son? Don't you trust me?" And the boy says, "Yeah, of course I do." He says, "What's the matter then?" And the uncle comes over, Uncle Terry. Comes over and says, "What's the matter? You chicken?" You're from London, right? "You chicken?" Bark, 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 bark. So all the cousins start to do bark, 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 bark. So the boy says, "I'm not a chicken." So he jumps, closes his eye, and jumps into the outstretched arms of his father. He jumps. The next thing he knows, his head, his face, and his shoulder hits the cobblestones. He takes blood in his teeth. One tooth is broken, and there's blood coming out of his mouth, and he's hurt himself. And he starts to cry. He feels his father's hand on the back of his neck, picks him up and says, "Don't cry, son, don't be a girl, boys don't cry. You're going to go to school on Monday. Don't let anyone push you around, and never trust anybody." That boy was my brother. And that man was my father. It wasn't a father that I recognized later in life. He changed enormously because of what happened to my brother. Because if you want to understand, if you want to doubt the role of emotion in learning, that's emotion in learning. It's a negative emotion, negative impact. In fact, Danny did go to school. Somebody did pick on him on the first day at school. As a 5-year-old boy, he picked up a chair and hit it over the boy's head. And Danny left school at 14, was thrown out of school for violence with a sports teacher. Luckily, he learned to do other things and became a successful businessman, is now a multimillionaire and lives in Andorra. But he's also a very, very unhappy, frustrated, emotionally stagnant human being. And he's my brother. So never underestimate the power of emotion in your teaching and in what you can do, because you have the power to influence people's lives and change people's lives with that. Now, I don't want to leave you with that. We'll go on to something different, something a bit better, because it is a bit of a shocking story. Again, it definitely happened, and I certainly didn't have that experience as a father. However, I did have the same father in lots of other ways. So when I was 14, I went through the teenage years and the depression and, lots of very difficult things. And the thing that took me through it, the thing that got me through it at school was one teacher. One teacher, an English teacher, who listened to me and who made me feel I was the most important person in the room to him at that moment. And that gave me a reason to go to school. It gave me a reason. During that difficult time, 6, 7 months, maybe a year, it gave me a reason to go to school. So it doesn't matter what was happening at home, the teacher was that savior for me. Inspiration. It made me love Shakespeare, it made me love theatre, it made me love music, and gave me a way out of my own thing that was going on in my head. So, again, I certainly don't pretend to understand everything about emotion. If anyone pretends that they know everything about emotion, don't believe them. I don't believe it, because it's something that's very complex. All we can do as teachers and educators and coaches and trainers and speakers is try to understand our own emotions, our own processes, and what other people may be going through. Everyone's a hero. You're all heroes. Every day you get up and you have your own demons. The kids do too. Students have those demons too. You can be the person. You can be the person who inspires them. And I hope you don't have anybody with those problems in your class. Maybe you do. Be the person who inspires them. Be the change that you want to see in them. And you have a wonderful job and a wonderful attitude to it. So I would ask you just to think about that question I asked you at the beginning again. Why did you become a teacher? What are the attitudes, qualities, values that you need to put into practice that you have to be the best teacher you can be in terms of helping your students motivate themselves? Because that's your job. Your job is to create a context for them to want to learn. What are those attitudes? And you don't need to answer me now. You can take it home with you. What are the values and attitudes that I need to put into practice in order to be the best I possibly can? And where does that come from? Does that come from mum? Does it come from dad? Does it come from your education? Does it come from your past, your process, an event in your life? Where? Why is patience the important thing to you? Why is curiosity the most important thing to you, Carmen? Why is, generosity the most important thing for you? Why is fairness the most important thing for you? Where does it come from? Understand your story. Understand your own story, why you do what you do. Take a step back. Understand why you do what you do, and you will then be able to understand why other people do what they do and your students too. And believe me, everybody does the best they possibly can with the resources available to them at that moment. Believe it or not, my brother, the best he could do was hit someone with a chair at that point. When I was 14, the best I could do was hit myself and cover myself in bruises. That was the best I could do. It was the only thing I knew how to do. Your students are always trying to do the best. And I don't know if this is true, but I don't believe that people get up in the morning, go to work, sit in the car or on the chair, on the train or wherever it is, and say, today I'm going to do it as badly as possible. Everybody's a hero. Okay, just the last thing for you. Here is a very simple, I'm going to leave it here for you. This is a very simple coaching tool. It's nothing sophisticated. It's 5 questions that are going to help you, if you use them and apply them, they're going to help you to really, really change the way people think. I call this cleaning behind the fridge in your brain. I don't know how many of you have fridges in your houses? And how many of you clean behind the fridge regularly? Yeah, and the man's like, no, not me. Me neither. Okay, so this is a way of it's a very logical way of thinking. It's a really important way of thinking, and it helps you clean behind your fridge. You can, when you talk to your students and in classes, you can use this in terms of what do they want to achieve to help them grow. That's why it's called Grow. It's the most famous coaching tool. I've narrowed it down to 5 questions. It's more than that, of course. It's listening, understanding. For me, possibly, the really important question is, what will that give you? That's why I asked Melissa up there, why do you do what you do? Okay, what does it give you? What's the purpose? Your objective is one thing, but why do you want it? I want to give up smoking. Why? What's it for? So that I can, in fact, I want to lose 15 kilos. Why? Because Susanna has said she won't marry me unless I lose 15 kilos. So I want to marry Susanna. Okay, so this is a really powerful tool. If you want to know more, we work as BU, we work with individuals, with lots of people. If you want help, give us a call, write us a mail. We'll show you this and show you how to use it technically with students, because it's a different audience. And we're here, whatever you want for you. So please enjoy this. And if there's one thing to take away from today, it's just to understand that behind every student, there is a story. What is that story? It's your job to uncover and understand. Thank you very much. Ooh. Thank you. Thank you very much. So just think of one thing as you go. Think of what do you take away from today. It's a question I always ask. I haven't got time to ask everybody today, but it's a question I always ask at the end of a class, at the end of a coaching session, at the end of a training session. What do you take away from today? It's a way of closing. It's called Gestalt closing. What do you take away from today? Have a think about it. Tell me as you leave, as we go up. Thank you very much. We're here to help you.